This week we make grey into this. So stay tuned on Tabletop as we are starting off with non-metallic purple. The first thing to do when you start doing purple, or any kind of non-metallic, is start off with the base coat. For those who have been following the channel for a while now and have been checking out multiple of my videos, you notice that I'm always starting off with a nice base coat. But one of you asked me, how do you get the base coat nice and opaque? To be honest, and that's why I'm showing you at this point entirely how I'm doing the base coat, it is never opaque until it is actually opaque. Simply said, it needs several thin coats. As you can see, even now, I am already having a lot of splodges. The black is still seeing through. It doesn't look good. And this is my second or maybe even third coat on it. So, just as I keep on doing it, you do the same. Just keep on doing it slowly and thinly, because that's all that it really needs. Thin coats over and over again until it looks the way that you want it to look. And I like a completely opaque look, so that means I'm doing this over and over and over again until I am satisfied. I find base coating one of the more important aspects of miniature painting. It doesn't matter how good you are at all the other parts, if your base coat doesn't look good, the entire mini simply doesn't look good. So take your time and base coat the mini the way you want it. This mini took me, I believe the base coat alone took me like 40 minutes, give or take, maybe 1.5 hours, just to get it opaque and looking nicely. And I don't mean the shoulder blades alone, of course. I did the entire, the shoulder blades. I need the knee blade, the shoulder pads, the knee pads. So everything that needed to be purple, I took in one go. But I kept doing it over and over and over until it looked the way that I wanted it to. And as you can see here with the third coat, it is finally starting to look okay. So when you are painting your miniature, don't speed up, don't try to cut corners. Just take your time, enjoy the process, enjoy every brush stroke that you're doing. And if you don't like it, if you're not enjoying the brush strokes, and if you're not enjoying the time that it takes to make a mini the way that you want it to look, then ask somebody else to do it. Because if you're just the one that wants to paint, that wants to play, then that's okay. I'm not somebody that actually enjoys playing the game as much. I'm playing it, but not as much as I maybe should. I'm really enjoying the painting. Because, as you can see, when it finally looks opaque enough for me that I'm saying, okay, this is alright, I'm going on with the next layer. And technically that's all painting is, layer after layer. Only sometimes the layers are thinner, sometimes the layers are thicker. And with a base coat, it generally is a bit thicker. And then when you go upwards, like I'm doing right now, where I'm trying to get a more highlighted area onto it, I'm going more thin. But I'm noticing that most of my paint usually is quite thin. I don't mind doing it 3 coats or 4 coats, and yes, that takes longer, I understand. But I also like the generosity it has about when I do make a mistake, when something doesn't look as good as I wanted it to or whatever. I like the fact that I can change this up. And trust me, this took me about a year to learn, because I'm painting miniatures for about a year, maybe a year and a half now. And only now I'm starting to dab my toes into the non-metallics, because I never really understood the thin layers. I never understood the gentleness about the painting that it needed to take, at least in my opinion that it needs to take. Because it looks good with a nice thick layer on it. But as you can see, as we progress through this model, I'm really loving the fact that I'm creating something that looks at least to my opinion, really good, where I'm just layering very thinly over one another. And you can see that, in my opinion, the light hits the target at this point. So I'm layering some more, but now a little bit less than the last time. And if you find this tedious, which of course to an extent it is, just remember that with every time you dab your brush into a new, thinner, more highlighted color, you need to paint less than you did before. So technically you only have to paint as much as you did when you start, because that's when you do the base coat, and the base coat needs to be over the entire module. But as soon as you go up and you go more highlighted or more into lighted areas, you just paint less every single time. Yeah, that's actually the entire trick to everything, paint less and paint thin, because I didn't like the transition between the dark purple and the light purple here. So I took the light purple and I thinned it down to what they call a glaze, which is technically nothing more than extremely thin or very watery paint. Because that's what it is. It's very, very watery paint. And I'm stroking the brush down, so from the dark to the light, because the most paint will be still deposited by the brush at the end of my stroke. So seeing that that is the brightest spot, I'm going up and down. I don't know if I'll show it in the video, but in the end I still didn't really like the way it looked like this. I still didn't like the transition. It was better, but not perfect. So eventually, just before I started with the non-metallic gold, I still did the same thing, but then into the other direction. So I took the dark purple and I watered that one down extremely much, so that I got that glaze consistency, which is again nothing more than just a lot of water with a little bit of paint in it. And I started to brush it up. So I turned the model upside down and I just brushed from light to dark until I got the transition the way that I liked it. And trust me, I'm no master in it still. I've just been doing it for like 2-3 weeks, but I am starting to get the feel of it. And I guess that's the lesson that really hits non-metallic painters. The fact that you need to create very thin layers and very smooth transitions. Because that's just something that is, to my opinion, the most difficult thing at this point into painting, to get these very, very smooth transitions, even though with metal or metallic, you don't need these smooth transitions. You'll see that when I'm going into the non-metallic gold, the transitions will be a bit harder there. But at this point, with the purples, I really like the fact that I had the smooth, or at least as smooth as possible transition. On the front bit, but also on the knee pad and on the foot pad as well.